Okay, so this is the next CO2 experiment. We're doing control. DIY CO2, the CO2 tablets, which I'm pretty sure are just baking soda and gosh, I can't think of the name. Yeah, I can't think of it. Some type of acid, like the AccuSeltzer meds, but without the aspirin and that type of stuff. I'm pretty sure that's all that stuff is. And then the regular injected CO2. So we got our DIY set up under there in a bucket with a thing on it in case it explodes everywhere. We got our tablets here. These are the ones you can buy at Petco. These are pretty expensive. They're almost $1 a piece. There's 10 of them, and I think I paid $9 for this after tax and everything. Yeah. So, well, I was just gonna drop it in, but whenever I was reading the back, it says you need that thing, and to me, that just looks like a like a passive CO2 setup, so that's what I went with. I just used my old passive setup. From the last video, yeah, it says, the use of CO2 tablet diffusing chamber is recommended when dissolving CO2 tablets. That's CO2, I guess it goes in that thing, and it just looks like a passive setup, honestly. I mean, it might be different, but I mean, they didn't even sell that thing at the store I went to, so whatever. Yeah, we're going to be following the dosing instructions basically. I was going to do one a day, but well, these things are $10 a piece, and I only need 3 of them for this, and that's kind of a lot, really. And also, they only had 1 of them at the store. So we're going to be following the dosing instructions pretty much, doing 1 every 3 days. It says 1 tablet per 5 gallons of aquarium water per week. That's used in a diffusing chamber sold separately. Don't swallow, but keep out of blah blah blah. So we're going to be doing 1 every 3 days, which is a little more than it says, but that'll be fine. This experiment will be going for 3 months. All 10 gallons, same as last time, basically 1 pump of Easy Green once a week. And safety absorbed substrate charged with how I showed you how to do it. Yeah, I guess that's it. I haven't turned on the injected CO2 yet, but I'll do that today after I get done with this. Yeah, the plants that are in here are the Copa caroliniana. That might be the colorative version, I'm not sure. Mexican oak leaf, which is doing really bad for some reason. And kind of all of them. It's only been in here a day. I'm not sure why it's so upset, but whatever. Persicata pak chong, Rotala orange juice, Ligia repens. Well, I thought this was Myro species Romana or whatever, but because it looks really brown in these tanks, but in this one, and in that one too, with a different light. I don't have any in there right now, but it was also really brown. But in this one, it's looking pretty green, so it might just be the standard, like Aquatica or whatever. But so sorry if I sold you that. It might be the wrong thing. I'm not really sure. Anyways, we got some Lumenfea. Oh, it's the one that starts with an H. It looks basically like the Cecifolia, but it's different. I can't think of the name right now for some reason. We have some Rotala Blood Red. I'm not sure why it looks so crappy in there. might have to restart this or something. It seems like the plants are like dying. It's only been a day. What the heck? And then we have some Hydrophila trifolia in back there. So again, Copa caroliniana, Mexican oak leaf, Pak Chong, Myro species, Vogia repens, Rotala orange juice, Lumenfea H, Rotala blood red, Hydrocotyl triflora. And that's the same in all of them. But yeah, well, they're all roughly the same length, as you can see. This video will be basically the same as last time, so yeah, nothing new there. See you later. If I make any updates in the middle, you'll see them, and if I don't, well, you'll see me in like a second. Put the tablet in there. There's it bubbling up. I wonder how much the bottle it'll fill. I guess I'll show you all that too, but yeah, I mean, with like the regular CO2, the bottle, full bottle of CO2, went away in like a couple of days. So, I think at minimum this stuff will be super inconsistent. And you can buy this stuff cheaper on Amazon as well. But it takes like a couple of weeks to come in. Yeah, but it's like $10 for like 120 of these things. So, marketed for aquariums and all that. So, anyways, trap basically nothing. Okay, so just real quick before my phone dies. A lot of the plants weren't doing so good because whatever, it doesn't matter, my phone's about to die. But I swapped the plants out that aren't the Bacopa, the Myro here, and the Pak Chong in the back. Everything else has been swapped out in all the tanks. You may not be able to see a lot of them. Looks like that one's floating. I'll have to get it planted real quick. But yeah, I'm not going to restart the experiment just because that's the wrong way. It's only been a couple of days, to be honest, and I just don't feel like restarting it. So, it is what it is. But anyways, yeah, swapped out the plants. Bye. Also, I swapped out the Lumenfea H, the Heterophylla or whatever, for pearl weed because I was all out of the Lumenfea because I sold like 50 stems of it like in a couple of days. So, this week. So, yeah. Okay. So it's been like a couple of days, and every once in a while, by every once in a while I mean like every 2 freaking days, this bottle will start leaking, and then no CO2 comes out of the DIY diffuser. Here, I'll show you. It's just some soapy water. But you can see it. It's just leaking like a madman. Oh yeah, there it is. Oh, it's not. I guess it must have drained all the pressure out of itself whenever I try to tighten it up. But anyway, it'll leak. And then it won't come out of the diffuser. So I'm going to change that to some soda bottles. Here's what the plants are looking like. The DIY CO2 seems to be putting out more CO2, not right now obviously, than the injected, than what I have the injected set at. And so far it's been like a week, and it's been fairly consistent, minus it breaking all the time. But I mean, yeah. I guess that's all I have to say about that. The tablets, they don't really seem to be doing anything. I mean, if you look at, I don't know, but yeah, they don't seem to be doing much. So this is them now. This is the control here. There's not much algae, like there's a little bit. You can see, especially on these front plants, there's the pearlweed, Myra, and the bacopa. Some on the Rotella blood red as well, but not a lot, especially whenever you compare it to this tank. There's just way more all on the glass, and maybe yeah, there's more on the plants too, like you can see some stringy stuff in the back. But there seems to be quite a bit more algae in the DIY CO2 compared to the control. I have it like that because, for one, most of the bubbles, dissolve in by the time they get to the top. And for two, if I had it screwed all the way down, it seemed like it couldn't consistently build enough pressure to push it through the ceramic part of the diffuser. So yeah, I just loosened it up to get it to go. But you can see most of these are, dissolving in. But there's definitely significantly more algae in this DIY CO2 than this one. And I will say this DIY CO2 has been very inconsistent. It'll not just like, sometimes it produces more, sometimes it's less, but like the bottles, they get messed up. Sometimes like it's just a lot less consistent than just the standard injected. You can see, yeah, I mean, it looks way worse. And these tablets here, I just put a new one in today, and honestly, I think these might be worse. Well, it seems like there's a lot more algae on the glass in this one, but a lot less on the plants compared to the control. I don't know though, but I mean, those things don't really seem to be doing much. They don't really dissolve in the water very good. And I generally keep the cap off there. I just put it on because whenever I put the tablet in, you're supposed to keep it in a thing like that, basically. And then in the injected, there's basically no algae at all. I mean, there's a little bit on the glass, but comparatively, basically none. And this Mexican oak leaf grows crazy. It is an extremely fast-growing plant, and so are, like the Rotellas and the pearlweed and stuff. You can get almost any stem to carpet if you have the right kind of flow. Honestly, it needs a lot of flow, and it'll kind of creep along. And once it starts creeping like that, it generally keeps creeping along. But yeah, I think this is 2-ish weeks in, right around 2 weeks in, and yeah, they all look like tiny. I think the DIY definitely has the most algae. It's a real pain too. I think DIY mixed with passive, you know, like one of those things, and you just have a hose going up in there, I think that would help a lot, honestly, because a lot of the problems with the inconsistency and all of that stuff, I think it would be somewhat limited by a passive diffusing system like that. So maybe I'll try that as well. But anyways, just thought I'd give you an update. Here's the outcome of the experiment tank. It's a control. Doesn't have any algae on the glass right now, but there's a ton on the plants, as you can see. They're just absolutely covered in it. DIY, its glass algae is kind of going away, but on the plants and the substrate, very bad. However, the Leo Reppins, I mean, compare it to there, or even the CO2 tank, wherever it might be hiding. It's huge. I mean, it's like 3 or 4 times the size. It's kind of crazy. The Tabs tank, the plants are bigger, I think, I would say. Well, I don't know. It's hard to say. Then the control and the injected, obviously they're huge. But let me clean out the algae on the front of these so we can get a proper look. Now you can see the DIY CO2 thing fell off. That happened last night, I think. But yeah, their glass is cleaned up now, and you can. The DIY plants, they're bigger for sure, but there's also a ton of algae, and that's just because this DIY CO2 is so freaking inconsistent. Let me hook it back up actually, because I'm going to show y'all something. But that'll take a while for it to pressure back up. And also I have my linear air piston pump turned off because the water level's low. Because I'm doing my water changes tomorrow, and this is a week's worth of evaporation, so it's kind of loud. With all the filters and everything running, so I turned like 90% of them off. I still have a few powered filters, which you can hear, but anyways. But the DIY, it's super inconsistent. Whenever I had it actually running through the diffuser, it would break constantly. I think it was just, it had to overcome too much pressure, And it would just, slip out through the threads or through my silicone / I tried all the things. I ended up going with hot glue, I believe. It seemed to work the best. Actually, I'm not sure if I tried silicone. I don't remember, but I tried super glue and hot glue and probably some other stuff, but yeah, it just didn't work whenever you were pushing it through a diffuser. So I loosened it up so it would bubble out the sides, and that worked way better. Way better. I'm considering doing like a passive setup with the DIY CO2, and I think that would work pretty good. But that's for another time, maybe. I won't stop talking. But the DIY it's terrible. I'll be honest, it's awful. Maybe with it works obviously, but it sucks, and it's not really even at all comparable to injected. But yeah, DIY is bad. But I think with the passive type of setup, like I had in that previous video, but just with DIY constantly pumping into the bell diffuser thing, I think that would actually work fairly well. Because I think it would help with the inconsistency of it, because whenever it feels like producing a lot, it would, it couldn't dissolve. It it couldn't dissolve any faster than it would have anyways. But with the tabs, it appears the Bacopa died. It didn't in any of the other ones, so that's interesting. Yeah, like you can see how much smaller the Wii is there compared to the DIY. And in the Injected, to be fair, it got everything basically got shaded out by the Mexican oak leaf. That plant goes absolutely crazy. But yeah, the pearl weed also did pretty good. But you know, I'm not sure. Oh, did the? No, I guess it didn't. I'm just gonna cut them. You know, I think the tabs. Yeah. I think they might have done worse than the control on this one. It's hard to say. I think they're about the same. Like on some of the plants. On some of the plants, the tab's bigger, like that blood red over there. You know, it's quite a bit bigger, but well, you know, I think it is better. I think minus the Bacopa that died, I think all the other plants are a little bit larger. Oh, I guess the middle plant. Oh, it got sucked up in the filter. That must have happened recently. Let's see how long it is now. Good roots on him. I think he might be longer. Anyways, and then this one is, yeah. But let's get him on the table so we can really see what's going on with him. Alright, so control, DIY, tabs, Injected. Look at that Mexican oak leaf, that's crazy. But yeah, you know, I think the kind of the biggest thing here is obviously, you know, no CO2. All the plants are way smaller than with CO2. And with the DIY, they're bigger, but they're kind of covered in algae. And I, you know, try to clean off all the algae. But I think the real interesting thing is, you know, I think everybody kind of knew this pretty much. You know, the DIY CO2, the plants would be bigger than the control, likely smaller than these, but I mean, maybe bigger. But they just have a lot of algae on them. But what's really interesting is the tabs seem to perform worse than no CO2 at all. Like you can see with the Bacopa, that Bacopa died. This Bacopa's fine. The this is Rotella blood red. On the tabs, the Rotella blood red's actually bigger by a little bit, maybe a quarter. No, maybe I'm wrong. The Boogie Repens on the tabs, it is larger. The pearlweed, it's hard to tell on this pearlweed because it mostly just branches. This one has a few branches, but I mean, you know, maybe it is. Yep. I think I might be wrong here, actually. The Myro, that Myro's a little bit longer, and this one's kind of covered in algae. Both of these were covered in algae, I just cleaned this one off better. So that's why it's all black. This is the really telling plant, because it just grows so fast. Not a lot, actually. I mean, a little bit, but not much. Yeah. Pretty matched. Thin stems seem like they're about the same size, all that. But with this one, the Hygrophila triflora, it's quite a bit smaller. That wasn't a good flip, and to be fair, this one does kind of bend, whereas that one does not as much, but you know, I'd say even with that bend, Well, there, it's smaller. The orange juice is smaller. The pak chong, I'd say is probably about the same size. Yeah, maybe a little bit smaller. It's kind of hard to tell with that one. Well, maybe smaller, but this one kind of has a bend to it, so it's a bit harder to tell. But I guess they're probably about the same. Like, I'd kind of call that a wash. I think if we did more tabs, like every day or something, these would probably be more significant. Maybe. But it kind of seemed like some of them were worse, too. Some were better on this one, some were a little bit worse, some were about the same. So I don't know what to make of that. But I'll tell you what's crazy. This, let's compare to this. Yeah, but look at all the branches on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4. And this one. Yeah, about the same size because they maxed out the 10 gallon, but look at all the branches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, maybe more. I mean, that's just crazy. The Luya weapons, not as big of a difference as I thought, actually. It was just hidden by all that Mexican oak leaf. But yeah, this one's a little bit longer, but this one also has a bigger offshoot. Though to be fair, it only has one. But if you kind of compare the sizes, about the same. I mean, maybe a little bit smaller, but it was also covered by all this frickin' Mexican oak leaf, so it's kind of to be expected. This blood red here, I think it has 4-ish branches of good size, and that's quite a bit larger. You can see at the top, and the branches are bigger than that one's too. Bacopa, kind of same story. Both of these split, and these were the only ones to do so, but this one, I mean, it's just big. Pearlweed was kind of crazy. Look at the size of this one. Huge. Compare it to the DIY setup. Tiny. And even on the control, looking micro in comparison. So it seems like pearlweed and Mexican oak leaf really like the CO2. Whereas some plants, they didn't really care as much. Like, let's look at this pak chong compared to the control here. Like, I mean, it's about twice the growth, but that's way more than twice the growth on the pearlweed and especially the Mexican oak leaf. Let's look at the DIY with the pak chong compared to the control. It's a little bit longer with the DIY and the other one. It's a little bit longer, but this one has 2 and this one only has 1. So if we kind of compare, say this one, about halfway. This one's like 50% bigger, or whatever that math is. And yeah, this is the DIY CO2 Mexican oak leaf. That's the injected Mexican oak leaf. I mean, no real comparison there. Injected is way bigger. I mean, I guess that's kind of it for the plants. In this comparison, I have a thing I'll short there. That would be nice. Well, actually, I'm going to wait for that and I can show you. It takes a while to build up the pressure once it pops off, but well, I'm not even going to wait. Why bother? But basically, it'll be like 1 or 2 bubbles kind of a second in the regular, just sitting there. But if it gets bumped or something, it goes crazy. Let me kind of show y'all here. At least, you know, like within the bottles, you know what I mean? So here's the setup I did. I used the 2-bottle method. I think I kind of talked about that earlier. At least whenever it freshly starts, so you can hopefully see how much bubbles. And I already kind of shook it up a little bit, but now check it out. Look at how many more there are. It's kind of starting to slow down, but yeah. But yeah, so if you have like animals or something that likes to kind of bump into things, you gotta make sure your DIY is in a spot that it can't get bumped. Oh. But yeah, I mean, I guess, and the tubing falls off because used airline tubing, and so you know, it just seems to not really be able to take the pressure coming out of that particular diffuser. I think was the biggest thing, because it would just, I mean, it would just break it, and then it just wouldn't work. I can't say I'd recommend DIY CO2. I think, you know, I think it has its place. Like maybe, I think with a passive type of setup, it'd actually be pretty good. I'll try that out in the future. But, you know how most people do it, just, you know, like this, just like regular CO2, but it's DIY. You know, it's terrible. It's awful. It's just not consistent enough. And, you know, like if your house varies in temperature at night or something, that also makes a big difference, I've noticed. You know, even like a few degrees. And I've had other people tell me this too, like, you know, a few degrees, huge difference in production and everything. So it's just really inconsistent. But like I said, with the passive setup, I think that would kind of solve most of its downfalls, minus it just being finicky and kind of annoying. But the tabs, I think they kind of suck. Like, because with like, if glutaraldehyde or like the Dairyland product I'm going to try next time, if they work, you know, you could set that up with an auto doser, and you know, you could have really consistent, you know, CO2 or whatever you want to call it, you know, and it'd be good. Like, you know, you get the seal of approval. But with the tabs, you can't really do that. Like, you could maybe try to rig something up with an auto feeder or something, but I'm not sure how well that would really work. And also the ones I bought from Petco, because they were the only ones I could get locally. And the ones on Amazon, you have to wait like a long time. You know, they take a long time to get there. They also made the water foamy, so they might have actually had like the aspirin in it from the Alka-Seltzer. They might just be straight up that. I'm not sure if aspirin likes to make water foamy, but that's just something I kind of noticed. Yeah, Inject is good as always. Yeah, I mean, so far in this experiment, there's nothing I would really recommend for control that, you know, I would just use control or just regular injected so far. Like, I think maybe with the DIY passive, I think that can actually be pretty good. But I'll have to try that probably 2 times from now, I think. But, yeah, we'll go over, I took a picture every day, so I'll go over that now, and I might do a voiceover, I might not. We'll see. This is the control here, and I think this is the day where I change out most of the plants. You can see it's all kind of going good. Here we're believe, yeah, right in here, we're starting to get some of the algae on the plants and the walls, you can see. I'm not sure why some of these, like the light's different and everything, but algae's getting real bad in here. It just kind of keeps getting worse. See the copa's getting bad. The, here soon, yeah, that's whenever the Miro at the top starts getting bad. On the 24th or whatever. And, yeah, 30th is got really bad for some reason, and then that's the 21st. Here's the DIY. You know, I think we changed plants in here. I think it was like for the first week, the DIY was, you know, like pretty consistent. And then after that, up until like week number 2-ish, maybe like halfway through week 2, it started to get bad, which is probably in here. And algae it came back or whatever, I don't remember. But, you know, algae, it got bad basically at the same amount of time. That DIY is really consistent, I'll tell you, and it got worse too. I'm not sure why only half of it got the algae on the glass and why it's such a dark color. I don't really know about that, but yeah. Here's the tablets. You can see I had the cap on it for a while, and then I think on the 3rd day or something I decided to take it off so it could get better flow. I eventually, on the 9th, I guess, I put it in the back because it was annoying to have to hold it. You know, it's algae's getting bad, maybe a little bit earlier on the tabs. I'm not really sure, I don't remember, but I'm sure y'all will. Or you can go back and look or whatever, and then, you know, around that 20th or so, you know, it starts to get real bad. So it's kind of weird how they're all different but kind of the same. And again, it's that half of that glass. I'm not sure if that, maybe that's because of the light, you know, like the, oh, whatever, you know, same thing right in there, changed all the plants. You can see for being on the 9th, the plants are quite a bit taller than the others, I think. Looks like some of the algae starts coming along now. Or maybe that was just plant. Oh yeah, here's the algae. Here it is. And you know, it gets worse. And you can see how big that oak leaf was there.